Good morning. It is September 26, 2025, and this is OSU Turf Team Times. Online today, we got Dr. Tyler Carr, Dr. Xiaowei Wu, and Dr. Dave Gardner. Virtually all of the state got rain this week, and I think there was a huge sigh of relief for a vast majority of people. And I can see that turf has already started to green up. And I also think or expect that people are going to be slinging a lot of seed in panic as they start to run out of time. Uh, if you have made that decision that you're going to seed this weekend, then you will still need to apply some water next week. I did see that weather forecast is not showing constant rain all the way through, and still sufficiently warm temperatures. I saw high temperatures in the Cleveland area still forecast for mid 70s next week with lows in the 50s. And so I would expect further south that we are staying warmer, and that will require water to be applied on newly seeded areas. You may also be considering getting into the world of sod at this stage as it does get later, and it gives you some flexibility. There is an increase in cost associated with that, but you also will need to water that sod maybe more deeply rather than frequently, to ensure that you get rooting and establishment of that sod. Dr. Gardner, you want to give us a weed herbicide update?
And I would be more than glad to. So, top of the morning to everybody. Or, you're probably not watching this in the morning since this is a recording, come to find out. But the question of glyphosate and its availability to homeowners, we had somebody who watches our program email us this last week and pointed out that there are a couple of glyphosate containing products on the market. And I did a little bit of investigating, and what prompted the removal of glyphosate for residential use was an interim decision issued by the EPA, and also the companies that were the large companies that were selling glyphosate, they voluntarily removed it. And then major retailers also stopped selling it. And this was all supposed to occur by the year 2023. Well, the EPA removed that or withdrew that interim decision, which allows for now its continued use. And while most products are no longer available to homeowners and a lot of the retail outlets refuse to sell it, there are, in fact, some products still on the market. And so I list a couple of examples there. And I want to mention that mention of specific products is for illustrative purposes only and is not intended as an endorsement to the exclusion of other products that may be similar. But my point is that you can, in fact, if you're able to locate it, still buy glyphosate as a homeowner. Now, the final EPA review and registration decision for glyphosate is anticipated in 2026. So all pesticides, they review and renew the registration every 15 years, and that is meant to occur in the year 2026. But I guess the bottom line is that it's a very controversial product, but it's also one that, if used correctly, can be very, very valuable for our industry. And so I guess the bottom line is stay tuned. Now, talking about weed issues of the moment. So if you see things like spurge and purslane or foxtail or crabgrass or goosegrass, these are all annuals, right? And it is the end of September, and we're not that many weeks away from the first frost. And not long after that, a lot of those annuals are going to start to look like this. Oh, by the way, if you ever wanted to know whether you have mostly tropical grasses or savanna grasses, after that first frost, the tropical grasses tend to turn purple and the savanna grasses tend to turn like a white or a tan color. And so you'll be able to tell if you're infested more with, like goosegrass and crabgrass versus Bermuda grass and nimblewilt. But my point is that all of these are going to start fading away on their own. And so at this point, there's probably not a lot of purpose in applying a herbicide to try to control those unless you have a client that is really, really angry that they're having to look at that. Because again, they're going to go away on their own here in the next 3 to 4 weeks. So now might be the better time to figure out where you're going to put your pre-emergence next year. So where you have a problem with annual grasses and broadleaves this year is where you're going to have a problem with annual grasses and broadleaves next year. So an appropriate pre-emergence herbicide might be the better plan at this point. Now, that said, remember that field paspalum, one of our new grassy weeds, is actually a perennial. And for the same reason that I tell people that you can control perennial broadleaf weeds in the fall, well, field paspalum, so long as there is still green leaf tissue, you can make a go at using topramazone in order to try to control this. And so remember, since it is a perennial, pre-emergence herbicides next spring are not going to be the option. So you can try to hit it this fall yet, and then make sure that you monitor for early emergence and treat in April or May. So what'll happen there is that instead of little tiny seedling leaves emerging from the soil, you'll have big, fat, almost mature size leaves that are poking out of the ground, and that's kind of the telltale. I get those emails every spring from people asking me basically, what is this mecha mutated crabgrass that's coming out of the turf, and it's field paspalum. Same thing with yellow nutsedge. Since it is a perennial, you can also attempt to treat it. And any of these sedge herbicides, sulfentrazone, halosulfuron, imazosulfuron, and pyrimisulfan would be the more appropriate choices, just because bentazone, it's a great herbicide, but it is contact. So if your goal is to try to affect the below ground structures that make it a perennial, one of those systemic herbicides would be the more appropriate choice. And that's what I have for this week.
Thank you, Dr. Gardner. Dr. Carr.
Sorry, guys, I had to find my unmute button. So yeah, glad to be back on. I want to spend a little bit of time and talk about the Ohio Turfgrass Foundation Conference and Show program. So those of you that don't know, OSU plays a big role in developing the education for this program. Um, and I just want to give everyone a clear preview of the exciting schedule we have, as everything's not really out there in the ether yet, but will be soon. So I've mentioned this on previous turf team times, and I just want to continue to get the message out. The conference is December 9th through the 11th in Columbus at the Convention Center, like it is every year. The conference kicks off on Tuesday with dedicated workshop days. So this is going to provide workshops and seminars, dedicated, in-depth, interactive training. It's I think you'll be pretty pleased with the program that's put on there. Four different sessions, four different tracks, and something interesting this year is pesticide recertification training that some people in our short course tracks are putting together for ODA category 8, 5, or 6C, 8, and core, I believe. So you could essentially go on Tuesday, get the training for your ODA categories, and then we offer ODA testing on Thursday afternoon. But anyway, I want to get back on track. So we have these seminars and workshops, and then in the afternoon, I think at 3 o'clock or so, we have these banter sessions with beer. It's always important to include that distinction. So that's a cool thing that we started last year, and there'll be more information on that on the website. But it's a really good way to get in town, go to these informal sessions, have a drink, network, and talk about very specific topics that we'll put out soon that are already defined. On Wednesday, the main conference program kicks off. So if you're typically coming in on Tuesday for the main conference program, this is Wednesday. That afternoon, we'll have our award ceremony, recognizing OTF awardees. We'll recognize scholarship awardees, the almost $20,000 of scholarships that will be given away. And immediately following that ceremony, they'll open the trade show floor. So trade show typically in previous years has been on Tuesday, Wednesday. This year, it's going to be Wednesday, Thursday. Thursday is the final day of the program. That trade show is going to be open late morning until early afternoon. And then we'll close down education late morning on Thursday, and the conference ends after the trade show ends on Thursday. There'll also be a small award ceremony for the 2-year and high school quiz bowl students on Thursday on the trade show floor. So a lot of big effort has gone into putting together this great lineup that I think everyone would be really excited about. That full program and registration will open at the same time by the end of next week. So be on the lookout for that. The OTF website, ohioturfgrass.org, and make sure you renew your membership to get member rates here. There are also going to be group discounts for 5+ groups with 5 or more people. You'll see all of that information on the website. You can already see some of that information on the site. So really looking forward to seeing everyone in December for the premier event that we helped put on in partnership with the Ohio Turfgrass Foundation. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Dr. Carr. Dr. Wu, insect update.
Good morning, everyone. The rain this week surely gave us a break, but before that, we had nearly about 2 months of drought in many regions in Ohio. And a journalist approached our entomology department to ask about the impact of drought on insects. I may want to mention here as well for the impact on turfgrass pests. So does it have impact? Yes, it surely has. But the level impact may vary with the time of the year. So the drought occurred in August. At that time, for example, the white grubs had hatched, so the survival of the eggs were not affected. However, the drought could have delayed the development of the grubs. So usually the grubs overwinter as third instars, the annual grubs. In the drought stress is because they have delayed development, so it's likely they may overwinter as the late second instars. That means they will have a longer feeding time in the next spring, and which may give higher chance for higher risk of damage. And meanwhile, there's a potential of delayed development as well. And another thing you may notice that there's the natural entomopathogens. So there will be some pathogens that naturally kill the insects for natural regulation. So you may notice that for white grubs, about 10 to 20% of those grubs will die from natural factors. You may notice there will be some fungus, either green or white, covering the grubs, or they can be brownish or or sluggish. And you may also notice that in other insects as well, such as caterpillars. So those are the either caused by the insecticidal fungi or nematodes, or beneficial nematodes, or bacterial virus that naturally kill the insects. So those factors generally prefer moist and warm conditions. But on the drought stress, the survival will be greatly reduced. So that means that those natural control factors, the entomopathogens, are reduced, and then that could break the cycle of the insects. Another thing I want to mention is that if you have not done grub control yet, now you still have time to do curative control, or if you see damage, you can do rescue treatment before it's too late. The treatments need to be put down, especially the chlorothalidine and neonicotinoid, because it's a systemic, need to be applied when the insect is still feeding. Once the insect stops feeding, it's not going to be effective. So the efficacy will stop. Another product, trichinophane, can still reach the insects, but still the earlier control, the better. Another thing you may want anticipate in the next few weeks is the cream fly. So especially if you live in the Cleveland area or near the lake area, they'll have European species. Those are invasive, can cause damage. Their annual species, then they emerge around late September or October. So you may expect to see those giant mosquito-like things fly around. They are not mosquitoes, they are cream flies. And they also match cream flies, invasive species as well, can cause damage about not whole or not. It's less intense as the European crane fly, but still can cause damage. And some native species will not cause, usually do not cause concerns. So I will mention about that when I see the emergence the next time. But you may want to keep an eye on that. So that's what I expect to see. And that's what I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Oh, bless you, Dr. Carr. I saw a big sneeze there. All right, folks, couple of things as we start to wrap up Turf Team Times on a weekly basis for the end of the year. The next one will be in 2 weeks' time. With the cool down, we would expect to see a slowdown in problems and hopefully recovery to occur. From a disease front standpoint, I think rust really is the only one currently that's an issue. But hopefully with the rain, we will see a reduction in rust problems. I know there's been plenty of it around. The solution to that usually is introducing new cultivars of turf grasses, particularly ryegrass, will reduce that problem. With that, if there is any other questions, feel free to reach out to us. We will, of course, respond via email. Our email address is buckeyeturf@osu.edu. And then all the social medias are all up there as well. So thank you for all the support this year and look forward to seeing everybody as we start to wind down and get an end to the season.